What is it like working with your dad and your brother?
It makes me feel very comfortable on stage because I have played with them for my whole life, even though not professionally. It's not very often that we get to play together in professional settings, but give us a Sunday that we're getting together for dinner and the instruments come out. And so it's just a very comfortable feeling. It's like wearing pajamas playing with your family.
So in your house growing up, did you guys have jam sessions?
Yes.
All the time?
All the time. And still, like any holiday, my brother's like, oh, I'm coming over to hang out. We know he's bringing the drums. Like, they're there.
That's
there.
wonderful. That's wonderful. Tell me about because I also, at some point in my life, I moved to Europe because I wanted to see something a little different.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see the world, the United States, outside of the United States.
Yes.
And I wanted to do, the European thing before
Mm-hmm.
a certain age. You went to Europe and Asia. What was that like, and what made you make that leap to leave the States?
Well, at the time that I chose to leave, I was having a struggle where I was young and I was trying to make it as a jazz singer. And you know the scene, you got to go to the jam sessions, you got to sit in. I have the world's worst jam session karma in the entire universe. Oh my God. It's so bad.
Why?
For example, I remember doing a jam session I think it was at Smoke. And I got up and I just asked the audience, I'm like, what do you guys want? Do you want a ballad? And they were like, sing a ballad. I was like, okay. My brother was playing drums. There was a bass player and a piano player who I hadn't met before. And I was like, okay, let's just do Misty in C. Is that cool? And they were like, yeah, no problem. We got through the A section okay. And then when we got to the B section, both of them realized that they didn't know it. The bass player and the piano player.
Didn't know?
So the piano player just stopped playing. The bass player played for like maybe 2 bars. And then he stopped playing. So I'm singing a ballad just with my brother on the brushes on the drums.
Oh.
And then the A section came back around and they didn't even come back in. And I was like, and thank you very much. Like,
well, that's a shame on them for not knowing Misty. It's like one of those.
Correct. But I always get stuck in these situations where like, really?
Well, that's a funny story because I remember seeing you one night at Smalls. You arrived. You were fabulous, and I'm like, "Oh, Andromeda, are you gonna sing? Are you gonna sit in?" You're like,
"No,
I don't do jam sessions."
No,
and I'm like,
and this is why. This is why. Every time somebody drags me up on the stage, it'll be a situation where like I called Perdido in F, and the piano player's playing it F, and the bass player's playing it in C, the entire song, and I'm like,
"Yeah, I know." Well, that's a good one, but but also. You have the fact that you are a Raylette. Mm-hmm. I was very impressed with that. I'm like, she was a Raylette.
Yeah.
In the last round of Raylettes for Ray Charles.
I was the last one.
So what was that like? And how did that come about?
It was an audition. I mean, luckily for me, I was in a situation where because my uncle played in the band, I had gone to a concert with Ray that Ray was performing. And I just went to like see it and like hang out backstage with my uncle. And the Raylettes were singing, I don't even remember what specific song it was, but it was Stevie Wonder. And so they're just like singing the Stevie Wonder song. And I just started singing with them and like harmonizing with them. And one of them was like, hey, I got to go on maternity leave. You pick up parts really easily. Do you want to do this? And I was like,
what?
Correct. And she was like, okay, well, you have to audition for Ray. But obviously, but she was like, so that's how, like, I was in the right place at the right time. I was lucky to have the family connection, but,
No, but in the end, it was your talent that got you that.
Yeah, and I sang Round Midnight for Ray for my audition. That was the song that I sang. I dropped out of college to take that job. I was 22.
Did Ray play for you?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Very impressive.
And he knew the changes and the key.
Well, that's a problem these days with our younger generation.
Yeah, but so I would be at these jam sessions. I was having very bad luck. I was never presented well. And the other problem that I ran into is I would go to jam sessions where you had to sign up.
Yeah.
And I would just put Andromeda. I would never put my last name. And they'd be like, oh, next up, Steve Turre's daughter. And I'm like, I just couldn't catch a break. And I was like, I need to distance myself from this and like figure out who I am, figure out what I want to do. And like, this clearly isn't working for me. A lot of the environment was also, as you know, as a beautiful woman, it can be quite predatory.
Yep.
And I was a young single woman, and I was like, I'm going to cut somebody. Like, I can't be in this environment.
Right. No, it is, it's kind of a thin line you have to walk, or, sharpen that knife.
Exactly. And I was like, let's just see what Japan has to offer. And so it had a lot to offer. And I lived in so many different countries throughout Asia and Europe. And I learned a lot of different types of scales and different approaches. I learned how to lead a band. I learned how to play the egg shaker while singing, because there were a lot of instances where I didn't have a drummer, or I didn't have a drummer that was familiar with Latin rhythms at all. So I had to provide that for myself. So it was great for like working things out and practicing. But I also found that the opportunity, especially going places like Vietnam or Russia, a lot of these environments that I was in, I was the first Black person or person of color that a lot of these people were meeting. I was presenting jazz to them in a way that they had never experienced it before. And that's when I really started to feel the responsibility that I had to tap into that toolkit and not just sing a song and go home. I was like, I have an opportunity here
to make a change,
to educate people and to expand their minds. And so that's when I really started to tap into that and advocate for the work that I do now.
Well, you do quite a bit for this music, and your brand now is Growing Up Jazz.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So it started just as like the stories that I have of all of these experiences, literally growing up jazz. And I realized that so many of the stories and so many of the musicians that I've had the great privilege to interface with on a personal level had such a great impact in our society. And to create a program that teaches people how to listen to jazz, what it really is, and how it has been shaped by our society and also shaped our society. And just getting people to understand jazz from that perspective is something that I wanted to share to allow other people to grow up jazz in the way that I got to.
Without having to have parents who are jazz musicians.
Correct.
And always around jazz musicians and that's a tall order.
It's a crash course.
Yeah.
The Cliff Notes.
But it's great because, I know how many jazz musicians do we all know with children who actually run away from the scene sometimes, don't want anything to do with that, but you've embraced it, and now you want to share that.
Yeah.
What is your target audience?
Mostly high school students. Mostly high school, because they're old enough to really grasp some of the meatier concepts that I'm presenting them with. But I have spoken to a lot of adults, and I've done a middle school before. Really anyone who wants to listen, but primarily like high school, early college age. Yeah.
Now, what's coming up for you? And if you have more touring, do you want to record some more?
I do want to record. I would love to record another album. I have so much to say after this last year of just being shut away inside. That wants to come out.
How has the last year been for you as a mother,
really hard.
As an artist? We can talk about, it's been hard on all of us, but you look like you've come through it with shining colors.
There's Instagram and then there's reality, right? Nobody shows the bad days when they have 1 hour of sleep and they're chasing a toddler, trying to get them to stop climbing on the ceiling. Yeah, it's been tough, quite honestly. We are fortunate in that about 2 weeks before the pandemic hit, we moved into our home and we moved my mother in with us. So she lives with us now, which has been amazing, both creatively and in a family sense. And she has been able to help some with taking care of my son. But as you know, she's got her own career and she's quite busy. She teaches online, so trying to balance managing a home, managing and raising a small child, which at 1 year old, they need you so much. My stepdaughter who lives with us most of the time during the pandemic, she's 9, helping her with homeschooling and also finding time to continue to shape my identity and continue to fine-tune my brand, if you will. It was really hard. It was a lot of nights where I got an hour of sleep.
Are you doing any writing?
Composing, you mean?
Yeah.
I have not written a song in so long, just because my office, which has my piano in it, is right next door to my son's bedroom. Okay. So the only time I have to compose is when he's asleep, and the last thing I want to do when he's asleep is wake him up. So that challenge I still have yet to figure out. I do practice singing in my car. So when he goes to sleep, if I want to work on like vocal stuff, I'll just sit in my car. It's like that's where I can go.
Well, at least you did it. It was really hard for me to do any kind of vocal work. My depression set in. It's like, what to do. But at least you.
I mean, last year was heavy.
It was very heavy. Yeah.
Last year was heavy, but if it made me want to do anything, it was fight even more. And so, what to do weighed on me so much, and I was like, you're gonna figure it out. You're gonna figure it out.